and striking that perfect balance is going to be of utmost importance. Jiten, would you like to suggest any possible solutions for difficulties related to virtual learning?
Akanksha, when I was a child, I studied in a government school where my fees was 3 rupees a month. So I've seen those days. I've seen that infrastructure of education, what it offers in a government school, Sarvodaya Vidyalaya in New Delhi. I went on to study in one of the best, topmost private schools and colleges, and then to London also. So I've seen all sides of the world, and I can confidently say that national education policy also understand that online education will be there for personalization as a supportive hand. So first we must learn to differentiate between the online education for adults, which is like above 18 graduate and postgraduate students, and then for teenagers, and then for small children. Now for teenagers and small children, we have to be very careful that around 60 million children in India who are dependent on government for midday meals and uniforms and textbooks, they have absolutely no resources to meet their ends. There is no way they would be able to afford a smartphone or a laptop or a high-speed internet. So I think a huge chunk of government's money, you see, in urban cities and colleges, schools like Spindle schools, I'm sure they would be able to ensure that there are students are able to afford those gadgets which are required for online education. But those 60 million children, I think the large chunk of government's education and pool has to go for All India Radio's Gyanvani channels and Doordarshan, which can have a multicast mechanism which can educate masses. I think we must keep in our hearts and minds the children who are standing at the last leg of our society. The urban cities will take care of their own, and I'm sure there are many mechanisms to deal with those challenges. But in our priority list, we have to have those 60 million children.
Absolutely. So we've discussed the challenges, we've discussed the opportunities and also the solutions. Michael, let me come to you. Let's assess the benefits of online education. How do you assess these benefits, be it in terms of accessibility or even affordability?
Look, I think the big benefits have been named. The fact that you can learn anytime, any place, any path, any pace, right? The fact that we all have different learning needs at different times. We all cry out and we learn best when we have a tutor or small group learning experience. And the very neat thing about online learning is that can start to allow us to have that. It can be adaptive. It can hit where we need it at the time that we need it. It can provide coaching tips at the moment that we struggle to allow us to unlock our learning and to figure out where we want to go next. It can expose us to lots of different fields and give us a lot of different choice so that we can build agency and ownership over our learning and thereby build motivation. So there's lots of benefits of online learning if we see it in that way. And again, the anytime, any place, any path, any pace piece of it is very critical for places that don't have universal schooling or have gaps, because we see right now with a nonprofit I'm involved with, Imagine Worldwide, we're doing experiments right now around the country, around the world, Bangladesh and other places, where we are equipping communities that literally don't have access to school. 250 million school kids nationwide, worldwide do not have access to school. We're now getting them access to a simple device, solar power, and internet connectivity once a day that allows them to actually build fundamental numeracy and literacy. And that's a huge opportunity.
That is indeed a huge opportunity. Going forward, what does online education mean for the future? Let me have your closing thoughts on that. Let's begin with Amita. Amita, your thoughts, please.
No, I'd just like to quickly make a point here that I have 800 children from the poorest of the poor slums in my school. I'm not an elite school. And I have 400 children who are suffering from a variety of special needs. So I have autistics, and I have children with cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. And they're all that we have been connecting with. And so there are many ways and means of connecting with children like this. They may not have mobiles, but we are ensuring that the communities give them out gadgets and devices. And so what I do believe is that it's very important that we bring in sort of technologies of 2.0 and bring in these optical fibers. And they are not optical fibers across the states, because I've been doing a lot of work with the state governments. And I've seen that if we bring it in, there is a great need for that. And
Right.
what Michael was saying is that across India, if we do something like this, the last child will be met. Every child should be given a device. There are not enough phones. The phones are taken away by their parents. They don't have it. When they go to the fields, they take away the phones. So every child should be given a tablet or a device. Every child should be given some gadget through which learning can take place. And the most important thing which the Prime Minister has been saying across the ramparts of Red Fort is that they are going to create lease lines. They're going to create these optical fibers. Well, then they should. Because without that, learning is going to take a big hit in our country. And I'm sure they will, because they've said they would do it. And I'm looking forward to the fact that the last child in our country will get learning in the way he should have it. I mean, it's his right to get it.
Amen to that. Jitain, what would you like to say? What is the importance of digital learning for the future?
No, I agree with Amitaji and Michael. There has to be, solutions around it. And then, I agree with Michael that, online education does solve the problem of affordability, infrastructure, and distance. And especially, in the lower strata of schools where they never had labs, forget about, cyber security labs or, chemistry labs. The virtual labs do solve that problem of infrastructure. So this is a new beginning which is going to revolutionize education. And there is another thing which I'm seeing that the quality education which was not available and the quality health infrastructure which was not available in rural areas. I'm sure that online schooling and online telemedicine would solve that problem of distance and affordability,
Right.
and it is going to have a revolutionary effect on Indian society. But my only concern is at the scale and the digital divide. So there are whatever best we can do to fill that gap.
Right.
We must all make our contribution.
Scale and digital divide, two very valid points. Michael, your closing thoughts.
Yeah, two thoughts. One is that there's never been a one-size-fits-all schooling system that can serve everyone. And so that as we walk into this future, I think we should be very clear-eyed that one system that we create will not serve all students well. And that instead we need to use the technology to blend it with these schools to create a system that's flexible, that can meet each child where he or she is and serve them in the best possible way. Second thing I'd say is moderation in everything. We don't want all online. I think that would be dangerous. And we want to make sure we create a balanced and whole children, that we serve all parts of them. And then the third thing I would say is that, look, as we walk into this with clear-eyed expectations and don't totally believe the hype, but also see the enormous opportunities, conversations like the one we've had today, where we talk about the challenges, opportunities, and benefits, is just a huge step forward for everyone right now. So thank you.
Absolutely. And one thing I can certainly say with confidence is that our discussion has been certainly very holistic. Thank you, guests, for sharing your precious inputs. It's been a pleasure to have you on board.